She was the first woman on $1 Million Listing in New York. But her toughest negotiation wasn't to land a deal. Today, she's here to talk about claiming space and believing in yourself. Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Today, we are speaking with Kirsten Jordan.
I had been living in Italy, and while I was in Italy, I was actually doing sales. And because of the fact that I was doing sales, it taught me that I actually really like sales.
Kirsten Jordan.
Real estate agent Kirsten Jordan.
Kirsten Jordan.
Real estate agent.
You'll know Kirsten, you'll recognize her from $1 Million Listing New York.
You've sold over $500 million in real estate. You are a TV celebrity and you have 3 kids. What's one truth about your happiness that might surprise people?
Realizing that whatever I'm getting, I'm totally creating in just everything I do and how I am and what I say and what I think and you can...
In your industry, do you have any tips for being approachable and making more friends or connections?
Making people feel good when you speak to them. There's so many layers, even just giving someone...
Welcome to Hack Your Happiness. Welcome, Kirsten.
Thank you for having me.
Hack Your Happiness is a podcast designed to bring you the behind the scenes of what brings iconic individuals happiness, plus their life hacks. I'm Mercedes. And I'm Anastasia.
Yes, thank you. We are huge fans of yours. We loved watching you on $1 Million Listing, and you are an iconic female real estate agent in Manhattan who has starred on the reality TV show $1 Million Listing New York. So, taking us back a little bit, what started your love for real estate and brought you to reality TV?
Well, I decided to get into real estate because I had been living in Italy, and while I was in Italy, I was actually doing sales. And because of the fact that I was doing sales, it taught me that I actually really like sales. And it was the kind of thing where it really taught me that like sales would be great for me. And so when I got home from living in Italy for that couple of years, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life. And my stepfather was like, I think you should just sell real estate instead of trying to figure out what else you're going to sell. And so I got into selling real estate, and I've been doing it ever since. I was 24 years old when I got into real estate.
Wow, that's amazing. You know, it's really sometimes you just got to take other people's advice. You just got to try new things, know what you like, but also like not be afraid of trying things that are a little bit outside of your comfort zone.
Yes, it was definitely outside my comfort zone, but I am very happy that it all worked out.
Yes,
For sure, yeah.
Definitely.
And you've shared that you look at your job as a sport. The better you get, the more you push yourself. Can you tell us more about what this quote means, and is it based on your time when you were involved in sports?
I definitely think that having an experience in athletics made a really big difference for my career because of the fact that I have a lot of stamina from it, and I have like a major kind of like real, I don't know how to put it. It's like I feel like I have a real strength in actually just the getting up early and structuring my day in a way that enables me to really perform and hustle. And that's kind of like, you know, part of what's made me successful is that first of all, exercise is really important to me. So I was able to maintain kind of, you know, this ability to like train and actually like squeeze exercise in the morning so that I can have the rest of my day. And I do think that because of the fact that helps with my overall health and mental clarity and just even being a happier person, I really feel like that's something that has carried forward with me from sports. And then the other thing with sports is like you do, you know, you set goals, you achieve goals. I think there's a lot of that I think I learned from sports, and I've carried that forward as well.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel like sports is such a great metaphor, and like we love having like even Olympic athletes on our podcast because I think like that grit and stamina and like, you know, resilience is such a factor in sports, and it's so like physical and easy to kind of grasp the concept of, and then like to kind of adapt and interpret that into other aspects of life like relationships or careers or sales is really important, and like routines and habits like you were saying. And so for anyone who doesn't know, who's listening, what kind of sports did you do in the past?
Well, when I was in high school, I was actually a race walker. So I was in track and field, and I learned. I happened to, you know, I was doing cross country, and I was doing the 4x8, and I was kind of more of like a distance runner. I wasn't really good at any sports, and then I happened to try the race walk. And when I was doing the race walk, I realized that I really am quite good at the race walk for some reason. That was just something that really just once I started, I was good at it right away. And so it just became my thing. And because of the fact that I was really good, I started winning, which was awesome. And then from that, I thought it really got my like athletic career up and running. And made me realize that, how important it was to train, how important it was to eat well, all the different pieces to being able to be like a strong athlete. And so, when I won the nationals, the states and the nationals, my senior year of high school. And that kind of like was a really big achievement for me. The only thing is I couldn't really do it in college because there was no college level race walk. There was only high school level and then Olympic level or like, other kinds of, recreational race walking. And so I just ended up kind of leaving it and not continuing with it, which was unfortunate. But it's also a very long distance, most of those races. And effectively, as a mother of three who also runs their business, it's not super efficient for me. Like I totally get it that people who are athletes and do, long distance running, but that was a time. And now that time in my life of having that much time to exercise is over. Like if I can't fit it into an hour, it's probably not going to work.
Having some physical movement in a day, whether it's race walking or, an hour-long little run or even like a little video from YouTube is so important for like mental clarity and focus and happiness. And so I love that you kind of talked about that because I think that's something that is important to keep in mind. It's not all or nothing. It's like fitting it into your day where you can. And so you spent, like you mentioned, your early career in Italy, which is so fascinating. You love Italy. And I believe your husband is also Italian. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, my husband's Italian.
Are there aspects of Italian culture that bring you happiness? And if so, do you incorporate any of these aspects into your daily life?
My husband's Italian and we speak Italian at home, and my nanny isn't Italian, but she lived in Italy for a long time. So she has like a really good understanding of Italian culture. And one of the things that I've learned from Italian culture is that I feel like this is very eat, pray, love, but in Italian culture, you don't actually need to use relaxation as a reward for having done something. You can relax just because you need to relax or you want to relax and you deserve it, which is something that's very Italian and not as necessarily as American per se. And then the other part of Italian culture is like, obviously there is a lot to be said for getting up and getting out and being dressed every day. I am dressed every day. I do the best I can with making sure my hair is done every day. But most importantly, like I really do try to leave the house dressed. It's super important. And my husband does the same. And in general with our kids, like we care about appearance and how you're pulling yourself together and everything like that. And so it's basically a big part of our lives. And then the other part of it is food culture of eating healthy and eating, foods that fuel you and are good for you and are whole foods and, simple ingredients. It's a huge part of the way we eat and the way we live.
I love that because
for
I know
sure.
that even for me, like when I'm having a comfy day at home in my like leggings or sweatpants, I feel, very comfortable. But when I'm wearing like jeans or a nice dress, I think I just feel more together, right? You feel like you can go after those goals.
Also in sales.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, it's really interesting like how your mindset can change when you're wearing something from like lounge to like, I don't know, more
Put together.
Yeah. And you really kind of embody more over
Feel
what
more
you're wearing.
confident, yeah.
You lived in Italy, so what made you decide to move from Italy to work in real estate in New York?
Well, the reason I came back from living in Italy was because I basically ran out of money. Living in Italy, you don't make a lot of money. I mean, you can do so many things in the U.S. that you can use to make money, and effectively, like, it's definitely not as easy to make money there. And I didn't have a family with a home there, and I couldn't kind of like live off of them like other people do when they're, getting their career start in Italy. And so at one point, it just made sense to come home. And so that's what I did. And then I started with my real estate career.
Fair enough. I think that's something that, a lot of us aspire to do is like, oh, I'll do like, I don't know, some time away in Italy or another part of the world and experience the culture there. But there's definitely that like give and take in terms of lifestyle.
Difficulty.
Yeah.
You also have to do it early because it's better to do it before your career is up and running than when your career is already running, because it's very hard to change course sometimes when you are focusing on also building, what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Those, like,
And so as real estate is often seen as an industry with kind of no ceiling, did you have any fears about entering the industry?
I would say probably one of my biggest weaknesses, especially and probably still today, and that's probably why I'm such a good entrepreneur, is the fact that I usually underestimate how difficult it's going to be to do something, unless I've already done it before, like a lot of times. And so I definitely didn't know what I was getting myself into. So I wasn't scared because I didn't know how hard it was going to be, because I had no idea.
Fair enough.
Yeah, sometimes it's a good thing to not really know so that you don't freak yourself out.
Oh yeah. If I had known what this was like, somebody asked me the other day, if you knew then what you know now about how difficult this was going to be, would you still be a real estate agent? Would you have done it while your kids were little? And I was like, I don't think I would have done it when my kids were little, because it was really hard then, really tough.
What about it is the most challenging, would you say?
I mean, there's a couple aspects of real estate that's challenging. One of them is probably balancing building your client list at the same time as you're kind of closing deals and doing the business. So you're supposed to be consistently making sure you fill your pipeline by networking and just in general keeping your past clients and sphere alive, while you're also really focusing on actually doing the deals. And in the years when you don't have any support, maybe you don't have a team and you don't have the right infrastructure, that effectively falls on you. And that's what I was living during those years when my kids were growing up. My kids are not grown up now. They are 7, 10, and 11, but they're in a different place right now. And it's a little bit less complicated to run the household. It's complicated in different ways and less physically straining.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, always have like a different type of challenge, but sometimes it's easier in one area than the other.
I agree. And I think even for teens, like sometimes, like not maybe as much as in real estate, definitely not as much, but trying to like discover and manage these different facets of life.
Absolutely.
Like when you're, going through high school, going through the different grades, like I think sometimes like if I'm kind of coming up to the end of high school for me, and I think that if someone had told me like how much harder it would be from like, elementary or middle school, it would have been overwhelming. But sometimes just going in head first, not even thinking about the challenges, just like taking it as they come, I think is important for
Definitely.
trying out new things, because otherwise we can get in our head and spiral.
Although I
right?
do feel like sometimes they try to like scare you a little bit extra, so then when you get there, it's not as bad.
It's not as bad.
Real estate, especially in Manhattan, is known for very intense competition, not unlike what we see on TV. What's your approach to thriving and feeling confident in such an intensive environment?
One of my most important things that I focus on is being prepared for the things that we know are coming. So the stuff that you can't expect, there's only so much preparation you can do for that. But with regards to, in general, the other kind of like moments where maybe I'm going to go to a pitch, or I'm going to be meeting with somebody who I know the property that they own, or I know the assets that they already are selling, or any of that, like that is an opportunity for me to be prepared. So anything I know what I'm going into that I can study or prepare, that's how I leverage my team the most. I try to, get any sort of extra research I can before I'm going into a situation. But most importantly, not only do we prep and do our homework, but we prep together for the meeting. So I really make sure that, we do know what we're going to be talking about, and we do know what we're going to be saying, and what our responses are to certain questions, and how we're going to act in that meeting with regards to like, what someone's going to say versus what the other person's going to say, and what our areas of expertise are going to be. And I do think that generally, in the beginning, you can do the best you can to be prepared with what you know. But as you get further and further into business or into your career life, there's ways to be more prepared versus being less prepared. And if you can be prepared, it does make a really, really big difference, just because you're less stressed in the meeting, you're able to be more natural. And I just think that's probably, a huge reason why I feel like pretty confident in a lot of the situations that I go into.
Ready to bring a small bit of happiness into your home? That's right, Anastasia and I have designed a happiness or wellness activity box to help you connect with friends, family, or loved ones, because connection is such a key to feeling happier. It's such a hack to feeling happier. So this box has got 4 card categories. It's mission, family time, and it's got DIYs, talking points, fun things to do at home, and fun things to do outside of home. So Anastasia, do you want to do a talking point?
Absolutely. Let's see what we get today. Big or small, what is a recent mistake that you made and what did you learn?
One of the biggest mistakes I made recently was I was helping my mom to navigate in an area that we've never driven before while we were away on a little holiday, and I put all my trust into Google Maps and accidentally led us down a one-way road, and it was a very busy one-way.
Let's
so
just
that
say
was not
that.
a good time. But it's okay,
Really
we got out just fine and have
unscathed.
we've learned to not put 100% of our trust
Yeah.
in Google. Always look around.
Absolutely.
At the signs, yeah.
And I find one mistake that I sometimes make is I'll see something online and I'm pretty gullible, and so I'll immediately believe it, and then I'll tell Mercedes and my mom, and I'll be like, guess what I heard? And then they're like,
and now you can shop Mission Family Time. It's an awesome way to connect with your family at any time of the year. Get off those screens. It's also a fantastic gift for holidays or for birthdays or any occasion to give to tweens, teens, or adults. You can shop it now. It's linked in our show notes.
now let's get back into the episode. Yeah, that's definitely very powerful. I know oftentimes it can be kind of stressful trying to figure out what you need to prepare for, and it can feel like a lot, but kind of coming up with a system of knowing how I can prepare for this, preparing for a test, preparing for a quiz, even coming prepared to class, just, I don't know, reading ahead a little bit just to know what you're coming into so that all of a sudden it's not something completely unknown that you have to face.
And I think another aspect that I've heard about in the past and that I think kind of applies to this is controlling the controllables.
Definitely.
Life can feel so out of our control, other people, how people might react or respond to you, anything. It might just feel like we don't have control over it. I think a lot of teenagers and youth and young adults feel this way because, we have less experience or we have less say over the things we do, the place we live, but realizing what can I control? I'm going to just control that, and the rest I'm going to let go of because I'm wasting energy and time worrying over it.
Yes. Yes. And worry does not help, especially if you only can control certain things.
Exactly. And so, Kirsten, you've had now years of experience in your very successful career. What are some of the most important lessons that you've learned throughout your real estate career? Perhaps some maybe you learned the hard way or that you think are important to where you are today.
Well, a couple of the things obviously have to do with having built my team. Learning how to hire and fire and set expectations and make job descriptions and set boundaries and standards and continue to kind of build the infrastructure of a team is super difficult. It's one of the most difficult things I've ever done, probably more difficult than doing real estate deals in a lot of ways. So that has been a huge learning curve for me since I started my team in 2021. And since I started hiring, I hired my first assistant in 2020. I think that's when I really started to realize how difficult it was to manage people. I'd managed, a nanny, having childcare, things like that, but this was kind of a different level. And so that has been my biggest hurdle and biggest challenge in being being in the business, as a producing real estate agent. And then I would say the other things, and that's what I would say that's what I've learned the most of from effectively in the world of running a business. And then in the world of real estate itself, and what I've learned from real estate is that real estate is pretty much in every single very wealthy person's portfolio that I have seen, because I have the fortune of seeing all kinds of people's financial portfolios because of the fact that when they buy, in a lot of cases, we get a chance to see, their financial statement because they buy in these co-ops. And obviously, it's totally confidential what I see, but at the same time, I learn a lot from looking at these financial statements of these high net worth individuals. And I'll tell you that the savviest investors and the ones that really have probably the most diversified wealth portfolios and seem to really have real wealth always have real estate in their portfolio. And so investing in real estate is just fundamental in building wealth and also stabilizing your finances when it comes to, your life finances. And I think that the earlier you can learn about investing in real estate, buying real estate, owning real estate, all of those things, and getting through that hurdle of your first home and learning about your first home purchase, the better off you are. You girls are probably a little young on that for that right now, but it's not too late to learn about anything you can about real estate right now, so that when you do have the possibility to invest in, or maybe you're able to decide at an age where you say, hey, instead of getting married, I want that money to go towards a down payment on a home, or other ways to build that wealth through real estate. I think it's definitely a non-negotiable piece of everybody's portfolio, or at least it should be.
That's fantastic. I think that's something a lot of teenagers and young adults that listen to our show like should definitely consider, because, and even for me, like that's something that I want to definitely keep in mind, because like maybe right now you can't afford to buy any real estate, but going forward, having a plan, like controlling those controllables, like what do I want to save my money, what do I want to invest my money in and towards, to diversify and feel confident in where I'm putting my hard-earned money.
Exactly,
because otherwise I think you're missing out. And also there's that factor of like, we're fortunate enough as this generation of teenagers to live in a time where we have access to advice from top real estate agents like yourself, and to gain that insight and advice and knowledge that otherwise we would not be able to have without social media and online. And so I think like taking advantage of that is really, really essential.
Definitely. And there's also like so many books and like YouTube videos and resources out there that someone could listen to learn more about like real estate or investing or something specific that they want to learn more about.
Yeah.
Right. And it's making that first investment. That's the first step.
Definitely. And I know real estate can seem kind of scary and maybe taboo for a lot of teens. So do you have any real estate advice for any, maybe older teenagers who are going to potentially be buying real estate sooner
in the
than
next
later?
few years? Yeah.
Definitely the most important thing is to learn the market. If you can get out there and you have any idea where you're going to live, even if you don't, get out there and understand what homes are selling for or renting for, so you can start understanding what values are. Because even if those values go up or down over time, those data points are really important to learn. And at any age, you can start seeing real estate. You really can. Effectively, the safest thing to do would probably be go with a friend if you can drive, or, not go alone. But it's a really, really great exercise to understand more about real estate, because it's a non-negotiable, and we're going to continue to see rates are going to stay high, a little bit on the high side, or what we're calling high. And then, values are going to keep going up over time, especially if you live in an area that has a lot of demand because of it being close to a metro center, or it's a vacation hotspot, or various reasons. So anything you can do to get started on that learning curve is really important. And then obviously anything you can do to save money so you have that first down payment is huge.
That's excellent advice, very tangible. Take a look around, see what's around, see what you might be able to, at some point invest in. I think that's fantastic. And so, Kirsten, in 1 to 2 sentences, you've sold over $500 million in real estate, you are a TV celebrity, and you have 3 kids. What's one truth about your happiness that might surprise people?
I would say I'm still a little bit on the materialistic side. I like nice things. So they do still bring me joy. I can live with very little, but at the same time, that's important to me. And I would say on the other side of happiness, I feel like some of the things that have made me really like shifted the way I've thought about my happiness have really been like some of the old school personal growth stuff. Like I really like Neville Goddard and the I am the prize concept, and just the idea of meditation and really thinking and just like recentering about what you're creating in every single aspect of your thoughts and what you're doing and your action and all of that. So I think that like that's for me been huge, is realizing that whatever I'm getting, I'm totally creating in just everything I do and how I am and what I say and what I think, and you can redirect your own thoughts, and there's so much you can do to just really manifest and create what you want. And a lot of my happiness just comes from that, because the truth is that I have everything I want. I have more than I ever thought I could ever want. I am in a place where there's a relative amount of financial freedom, and I do what I'm doing because I love it, not because of the fact that, it's the only way that I make money. I feel like, and so for me, that's been huge to get to that point.
That's amazing. I think it's definitely, I like the quote by Tony Robbins that's like, energy flows.
Attention goes where energy flow. Attention, where attention goes, energy flows.
Exactly. We got it.
It's true. It's true.
You can really make whatever you want. You can shape your reality on however you kind of frame it. If you're trying to find more joy, that's what you'll find. If you're focusing on more negatives, that's what you'll see.
Yeah.
Also, it's okay to like own that you do have joy and you do have all these things that you just, that make you feel great. It's great to just own that and know it, that you have all these things. It's okay to be like, I have these things and I have them. And then it's also really important to use the exercise of visualizing what you want and having it, like what that's going to feel like, what that's going to look like, what your life's going to look like.
Totally. I think sometimes it can be challenging to recognize, like, I have all these great things, and how can I be thankful and in the present moment while still, like, striving for more in the future, and, like, setting goals and, wanting to improve upon our own selves as well. And so I really like that, like, being, present and thankful, and then also, like, visualizing how can I keep this up and how can I improve and how can I shape my reality, like, by my own perception, because that's so powerful. And I think, again, that's something in our control.
It's totally in your control. And there's so much more in your control than you even realize. I think there's a lot of stuff that we think of as outside of our control, and a lot of that's not outside of our control either. But you have to have that mindset that it's not. You have to really be thinking about it like, hey, this is really, I mean, even just my thoughts about this, my thoughts about this person and what this is changing the way this is happening or what's going on here.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah. And you've shared that in the past, for the early part of your career, you would only work for teams that were led by others because you struggled to believe in yourself. Is that the case? And most of us, including teens, have had moments where we don't really want to take the lead or leap to try something outside of our comfort zone. Do you have any tips for believing in ourselves?
Well, I think that one of the first tips is visualizing in what it is that you want. And I think that if you can get a taste by visualization of what you want and what that's going to feel like to have it, you will develop a want that will push you to do and take action. So if you take like a simple example, which is very tangible for you, which is like going to the school of your choice, right? Going to the college of your choice. Probably the best thing to do would be to visit there. And then potentially you take the next steps of like, what does it look like to get myself into this school and being at this school? Okay, well, maybe it takes like figuring out anybody that my parents have ever met that went to this school and anybody that they know that went to this school. And maybe I can look on LinkedIn and maybe through your podcast, you interview some alumni from that school. Then you're going to also figure out maybe what sport you're decent at that they care about at that school, or what other, whether it's other kind of initiative that they care about. Maybe in addition to that, you're going to figure out what SAT scores they are that really matter. But like, it's like taking something that you really want, and instead of just looking at it like, I really want this, looking at the action that it takes around it and the 360 degrees of like, if I really were to be serious about manifesting this thing that I really want, what would it look like? And do I want it badly enough to do that? Because if you don't want it badly enough, you won't do it. So at some point, you have to decide what you want. And I think that's the hardest thing, is figuring out what you want. Because feeling confident doing the things you need to do to be able to get what you want, that's easy if you want it badly enough. But if you don't want it badly enough, you definitely won't do it. And so maybe even cultivating the want can be important, or cultivating the visualization of the goal can make a really, really big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like just having, and I like how you mentioned that, like, you define what you want, but then you also like make the steps, because I feel like a lot of times, like, us as teens, like, we'll be like, I really want like the dream school situation, but you're just kind of waiting for it. Like, you don't really know what you can do to get there. So, almost like looking up like best ways to like get into this school, or like looking at the sports and taking control what you can control.
I think that's a huge aspect of believing in yourself comes from taking action, at least in my life. Like, I know that when I want to feel more confident towards a certain goal, or just believe in myself, like in general, I look for ways to do that. And whether that's, dressing more of a certain way, or making sure that, like, I don't know, I practice infusing more good vocabulary into the way that I speak, or whatever it is, like, just tangibly breaking down, okay, I want to believe in myself, I want to believe that I can do X, Y, Z, but what are the smaller steps I can take to get there into that self-belief?
Yeah, and making it easy for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and then if you take the steps, it gets easier for yourself anyway, because once you do one step, you're like, well, I guess I'll just do the other thing that I thought of doing, or maybe this other piece.
100%. And so in your industry, and I think in life in general, in most industries, in order to just feel happy as a person, relationships and human connection are so important. So do you have any tips for being approachable and making more friends or connections?
Well, one of the things that I do a lot of is I watch a lot of those Instagram like etiquette tips that people have, because etiquette isn't just about opening the door or, where you put your silverware. A lot of etiquette has to do with making people feel good when you speak to them. So it can be about using the right kind of language. It can be about talking about, just even asking them questions using their name in conversation. There's so many layers. Even just giving someone a way out when there's an awkward situation, you can tell that they're uncomfortable, giving them a way out of the situation so that they can leave gracefully and still have their ego intact. I really do. Those are some of the main things I focus on, and I do think it helps with approachability. And that is all. And then there's obviously just being genuine, smiling, bringing good energy to the moment, and being a good listener.
Definitely. I think putting effort into like our conversations and genuinely caring about the other person and making, going out of your way a little bit to make sure like they feel comfortable or happy, you're comfortable like in that situation is really important for having a strong relationship.
Totally. And I think another aspect of that I've learned from like listening to other podcasts, I was listening to one recently, and they were saying like also just let the other person talk, like be quiet and like be an active listener, kind of like just let them say everything without interrupting as much as you can, because there's such a major aspect to like we always have a thought that we want to kind of insert and share, but realizing that like so do they. And so if you want to be approachable and make good contacts and connections, like give the other person that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And building a personal brand that people respect and look up to is extremely important. What's your advice for others to build a personal brand and getting people to perceive you the way you want to be perceived?
Well, the thing with building a personal brand, and I think it's something that I'm still focusing on myself as far as what that looks like. It's been an evolution for me, because actually what happens is you think what your personal brand is going to be. For example, what I thought my personal brand was going to be about when I was doing $1 Million Listing is actually quite different than where I am right now with where my personal brand is going, and where I think I actually should focus as far as what's going to get me the highest return and what's going to be the most genuine, and also what makes me feel the most comfortable, not just being in my comfort zone, but also makes me feel like I'm actually able to deliver content that is meaningful and resonates and actually has the highest impact for the people that are listening. And so I'd say like you have to be comfortable with the fact that it's going to change, but you also have to also make some decisions at some point of what you are going to do and what you're not going to do, what you're going to say no to, what you're going to say yes to. What you say no to is just as important, if not more important, than what you say yes to. And so effectively, I think that, it's just really, really important to like, just kind of, you have to be driven and excited about setting up what you want that brand to be and what the objective is. And really like, I would say like, what's the outcome of what you're trying to create with a personal brand? And for me, it's really like, at this point, it's actually about real estate education for everybody and teaching them about real estate as an asset class and how you can use it to build wealth. And at any age, which I think it's what's relevant about what we've been talking about right now. But when I started, I wanted to like motivate people. I wanted to help women who have young children feel like they could go back to work and that they could become a real estate agent or do what they wanted to do with their lives, and they didn't need to wait on external validation to do anything, which is a great cause. But the reality is I think with what else is out there and what's going on, what I can really impact lives, and an area where I do have relative expertise and I'm taken seriously, is real estate. And so that's one of the things that I've decided to pivot on. But again, I spent years working on another brand and kind of trying to figure out a way to have everybody listen to that, and just realized that, first of all, it was muddying the waters with my career. It was confusing because of the fact that obviously I sell real estate. That's my main job. It's my day job. It's what pays my bills. And also it's really what I know the most about. Even if I know a lot about personal growth and development, I could write books on that and I have so much to say. The truth is where I really have the most probably impact is going to be in real estate right now.
I actually really like the way that you put that, because I think a lot of times we try to put ourselves, I'm going to be this type of person forever. Like, this is the type of person I want to be. I want to give off this kind of energy. I want to pursue this as my career. And we are really rigid with that mindset. But I think realizing that, like, it's okay to pivot and it's okay to evolve and change. And honestly, it's kind of bound to happen. So we should embrace it when it comes for a season of pivoting and changing. And I really, really like how you mentioned that, because I think it's something that we often overlook as teens. Like, we don't realize, I think, like, we've been in school for so many years, doing the same thing year after year, you know, school, summer, school, summer, school, summer. And then when you get out, you kind of get off of that balance and that routine. And so recognizing that, like, you know what, I actually, it's okay to change, and it's okay to kind of pivot from this original vision that I had for myself, whether it's in my job or the type of person I want to be or the type of message I want to give out.
Or what major you're going to pick in college.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
I
a
feel like
big
it also correlates, though, with, like, your personal life. Like, you're not always going to be the same friends with the same group of people, or you're not always going to be interested in the exact same thing. Like, it's okay to change.
Yeah. And it's honestly normal. And so on kind of another note, you've been in the media a lot, from $1 Million Listing to using social media as a way to promote your brand and your real estate and the work you do. But sometimes media, especially social media, can be a little less than friendly, especially with the comment sections. So how do you handle maybe sometimes some negativity from others? And do you have any advice for other people who might have a fear of judgment?
Well, first of all, the most important thing to remember is that people who matter don't judge, and people who judge don't matter. So my whole thing is, if someone has the time and the energy to be mean online, I don't want their life. And I pity them, to be quite honest with you, because there's really no reason or room for negativity. And anybody who is trolling online and saying mean things or negative things to people, again, like, I feel badly for them. And then the other part of that is, I also have been careful about what I put out there, and you know, what kind of judgment I'm putting myself out there for. I would say, in general, having, you know, a family, I am thoughtful about the personal brand that I'm creating and what kind of content I'm putting out there. So that's one other way I've thought about it. But the truth is I really let it roll off my back. There are scenarios where I know that maybe there's going to be some mean comments on something, or that somebody's told me there's mean comments. In a lot of cases, I don't actually go read them, because I don't think it's good for my mental health. And frankly, I don't really care. And you know, occasionally I'll see something obnoxious. And then the other thing is I stayed off of certain platforms. Like, I never did Twitter. I was always told that, like, for people like me, that's probably going to be pretty negative. And so I never, ever got on there, as far as somebody who is a thought leader or contributor, or creator or whatever. But generally, like, even on some of the videos that they put up of me during $1 Million Listing and the negative comments, honestly, like, it's fine. At some point, I'm just like, whatever. I kind of have a goldfish brain on this kind of stuff.
That's
Absolutely,
great, because you can't control those types of things. And if we're always living in a fear of, like, okay, but if I do this, then someone might judge me, or they might think that I'm, like, weird or different, but realizing that, like, okay, but if they were really going to be contributing a lot to your life, then they wouldn't be judging you on that. I love that quote.
Yes, definitely.
You know, the people who judge don't matter, and the people who matter don't judge. That's, like, that says it all right there. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And it's important to not judge. I mean, it's important to kind of give people the space to be who they are. And the reality is the more you just let people be who they are, the more you can learn who they are, and you're not trying to change them. And also, you get a good picture of who they are quickly, so you can decide whether you want to hang out with them or not.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I feel like also, if you're too scared to start something because of that judgment, I feel like that's just something, it's like the one thing that's, like, holding you back from doing that. And sometimes, you know, you just gotta say, you know what, in 5 years, if I don't care about what this person says, then it doesn't matter if, you know, that happens, because you can get over it. It's just one person's thoughts.
True.
And balancing a busy career with self-care and a family can be very difficult. How do you balance this career ambition with personal wellness and family?
Well, I definitely take care of myself, probably more than a lot of mothers do. Some mothers take probably better care of themselves than I do. You know, there's a couple things that are non-negotiables for me, like, you know, there's, like, everything from, like, you know, manicures, hair color, you know, taking care of my face, you know, taking, like, exercising, meditation, acupuncture. I mean, I do my fair share of self-care, and it cost me a fortune, frankly. And I also have great childcare, and I also invested in living close to my parents, so that I can have the ability to have my kids spend time with my parents, but also that I can lean on them, and we can lean on each other. So, self-care is not just like a, once a month kind of thing. For me, self-care is like a daily part of my routine. I'm up early. I spend that time, most of the time, pulling myself together and meditating and, journaling and all these different things to really make sure that I'm the best version of myself. And I would say, like, in addition to that, all these other things I'm talking about that are part of my, in a lot of cases, like part of my weekly routine. I really, and honestly, like, I do exercise like every single day in some form. What I do might be not be what people consider exercise. Like, one of my major exercise routines is I go on an hour to an hour and a half long walk every day. I talk on the phone, I read, I listen to books. I don't read, but I listen to books and things like that. So it's a huge part of my life. And frankly, if I don't feel great, none of the success is worthwhile and none of the money is worthwhile, because it's just, this is the version I want to live of this whole reality. And I've decided it, and that's what I'm doing.
That's terrific. I absolutely love the fact that you prioritize your self-care, because I think if we, aren't the best version of ourselves, we're not exercising, we're not eating right, we're not, presenting ourselves in a way that makes us feel happy and confident, then we won't be the best version of ourselves in our relationships and, our work, our school, whatever that looks like for us. And so, like, realizing self-care isn't selfish. Like, it's okay to put myself first in some of these places. And also, I like how you multitask by walking and listening to your book, or, taking phone calls. I think that's a great way to kind of fit some movement into the day by pairing it with something else on your to-do list. I love that.
For sure. It's such a great way to kind of like stack it so you get two things done at once.
Exactly. And so take us into filming $1 Million Listing with you. What was it like behind the scenes?
Well, it was COVID, so it was a little bit different. There were a lot of masks and all of that. So I learned a lot about doing my own makeup, which I feel like I've gotten better and better at since then. I now also can do my own hair. I couldn't do my own hair then, which sounds ridiculous. I could do my own hair, like, in the sense that I knew how to blow dry my own hair, but it never looked that good. So that's something that now I've learned how to do myself. And that's great. That's been a huge bit. But no, behind the scenes, I mean, it takes a real crew to film a show like this. You have all, you have sound, you have, visual, you have producers. I mean, you have real crew. And I think it's the kind of thing where, really what was amazing was, obviously, I'd never been talent before. Being talent's really special. They're there to make sure that you're taken care of and that you're able to do your scene and be yourself, and they're giving you feedback about how you are and how you are as a, what your vibe that you're giving off that day is, which I think is also really helpful. And it was also a lot of work. There was a lot of behind the scenes prep, just wardrobe, just making sure I had good outfits on, and makeup and hair and all that was huge. And obviously, making sure I had clients who wanted to participate, because, it's all real clients, real stories. So that was huge. And I just learned so much about television and behind the scenes, and even just crafting my own, narrative and brand on TV. So that was really special. It was only one season, but it was a really special for me, and I learned a ton.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So do you have a funny or crazy story of something that happened while filming?
I would say the craziest story that I have from filming $1 Million Listing was the first scene I ever did with Frederick Eklund. It was in one of these penthouses, and because he couldn't be there, I think he was in LA at the time, he was like on an iPad that was like on wheels, and he was trying to be able to like show us around the apartment, and he was like, his face was like on the iPad. And like, we didn't have internet all over. So like, basically at one point we just like lost him, and we're seeing the rest of the apartment. But like it was kind of like having R2-D2, if from what, I mean, I'm dating myself, but let's just say it was R2-D2, and it was great and it was hilarious. But it was one of the crazier situations, because here we were filming, and it was like, I had a guy on FaceTime and he was on the iPad with the wheels, and And it was just hilarious. And I mean, I got to know Frederick better after that as well. That was our first scene together, and it was entertaining, but it was also just a funny moment with him on the screen and on the screen that was moving on the wheels and all of that. It was funny.
Sleep is so important, especially I find during the summer when the sun starts coming in the windows and you kind of get woken up with the sun, which is one of my problems, but it has been completely solved since I've been using the amazing Manta sleep mask. The Manta sleep mask is 100% blackout, so you will get 0 sunlight in your eyes in the morning, as well as has an adjustable head strap so you can make it fit anyone, as well as it doesn't damage your lashes because it has these cups, and so if you open your eyes in the middle of the night, you're not going to damage your lashes because it's not directly onto your face.
It's also comes in a variety of different styles. There's a silk one, there's a regular one, and there's even one that plays sound to help you sleep, or maybe if you're going to be traveling a lot or someone in your house snores very loud, you have the nice sleep music to help you sleep better. This sleep mask is also a fantastic gift for teens, tweens, and adults, and you can shop it now, linked in our show notes.
Now let's get back into our episode.
That's
That
hilarious.
sounds really funny.
I think I remember that, and yeah, COVID was such a strange time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so if there is a teen who's listening to this right now and they're interested in maybe someday going into real estate, what would be your starting advice for like the first step to take?
To get into real estate? Well, I think it's the same step that I would say with the whole investing in real estate would be learning the market a little bit, because you can get your license when you're 18. So you don't have to wait that long. You're probably pretty close. You can get your license at 18 years old, and then you can get going on it. It's really just learning the market, and also just learning general business sense, learning how to deal with people, learning about correspondence, communication. That's the stuff that you can only learn either in another job that you could potentially be doing, where you're, doing any customer service or sales, or even waiting tables. I think is a great example of a good way to learn about the business of sales. I mean, the best sales job is really just waiting tables and dealing with people and talking to them, which I think you learn a lot of when you're waiting tables. But get out there and get your real estate license and start learning about the market, and you'll see. I mean, obviously, going to a great school where you have great connections is a great way to learn about real estate and have the right connections to be able to sell real estate. But if you go to a school that's actually too good of a school, you're basically going to have to move to one of the major cities. So you want to pick, if you're going to be that strategic that you want to get into residential real estate sales, wherever you go to college, you want to pick a place where maybe those people are going to move to a specific city. Like for example, if I had been wanting to sell real estate in Chicago, going to University of Wisconsin would have made a lot of sense, which is where I went to school. But I didn't want to sell real estate in Chicago, so here we are.
That's good advice. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Pick your kind of think ahead to what
Two steps ahead.
Think a bit ahead. Think about what you want to pursue
Totally.
and where you want to live. Yes.
Yeah. And now on to a more fun question. If you could live anywhere in the world other than New York City, where would you live?
Oh gosh. Well, I would live in Milan, to be honest with you. My husband has family there. We have so many friends there, and honestly, it's super. It's really a great place to live, and there's a lot of tax advantages right now. Not for us because we're both American, but for other expats, it's hugely advantageous. And so yeah, I think we'd probably live there, or both. I mean, that's something that I could see potentially in my future in the long term.
Oh,
That sounds
amazing. We
amazing.
visited Milan once, and yeah, it's
gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous.
Super special, right? Great shopping too.
Got a lot of fashion there, definitely.
Exactly.
And so, what is one piece of advice that you would give your teenage self?
I would say to my teenage self, well, first of all, I would have put myself out there more. I wimped out on a lot of things. Not wimped out, but I would say in my early to late teenage years, I did push myself in sports, and I did well academically. I think I had a pretty good report card in general. I don't really remember, but I'm pretty sure it was pretty good. It was more that I didn't put myself out there for other things that were maybe more challenging. I probably would have done more theater because I actually really like that stuff and didn't end up doing much with it. I did a little bit of it in college. I would have just really gotten deep on like what I was excited about doing right now and the things I wanted to do and gone for it. I would have pushed myself to go to even, apply to better schools and put myself out there more, I think I would have really pushed myself more and realized that the rejection would have been okay if I hadn't gotten those goals, but I would have really gone for it. And I think in some cases I just didn't. I kind of sold myself short a little bit because of just not believing in myself, I would say. And now that's something where, I climb the ladder and I get up higher, but it's still something that I occasionally have to like remind myself of what big success is going to look like in the future and what I need to achieve on that front or make myself feel good.
It's so important to believe in yourself, but it's so much easier said than done. I know exactly what you mean.
Oh my God. It's really hard. I think in the years that you're living right now, it's extra hard because you get really mixed up in what other people are doing and thinking. So anything you can do to get that independence where you're actually not inundated with the usual people that you're with all the time. Independence away from family and friends is, I think, really, really important. Like spending real time away from family and friends in a way that's nurturing enough that you're not lonely and because of your loneliness, you make stupid decisions. I think it's important to do that.
Just to kind of get to know yourself, right? So you
Absolutely.
know what you think and your genuine kind of ambitions and values is so essential because otherwise we start to kind of, conform to what the people around us think. And sometimes it's important to also have that time away to know what you think and be guided by that.
And what is something that you do every day that brings you a small bit of happiness?
It's pretty much coffee. So there's that. And the exercise part's really great. I mean, being with my kids, talking to my kids on the phone, being with family, being with my husband, that brings me a lot of joy. Obviously, I love my family. It's huge. Family's so, so important. But I would say like, there's a cute little Seinfeld bit where he's like, when you die, I think your last thought is probably like, God, that coffee was good. And honestly, that's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
I love my morning coffees as well. So
Mercedes
I know.
was like 3 a day.
Yeah, I love coffees, so I know what you mean.
Well, I can't only handle like one a day, and I had a couple sips of this kombucha because I was feeling a little bit down this afternoon as far as energy. But I limit my caffeine, but that one double shot of espresso a day is really my joy.
Right?
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love kombucha as well. I have lots of it.
But kombucha has caffeine in it too. You have to watch it. It's a lot of caffeine.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so for our final question, do you have one motivational quote you love and remember? And if so, why?
The main quote that we already talked about is honestly that I'm the prize. And I think that living in this stage of like wanting stuff that you can't have, or living in the gap of like feeling like you aren't in the world of living with the stuff that you want, that you want, like what you want is here and what you're living is here, instead of just loving what you have, envisioning what you want as I already have it, and what that looks like to have it, so that you can also visualize what that is important. So I love you're the prize. I love that. Like, I'm the prize. That's one of my favorites. And then the other one I love that I just saw the other day was a guy that used to say to his family every day, he'd say, "Who has it better than us?" And I feel like that's really sweet. This idea of just being like, we are so lucky, who has it better than us? I really love that, because I do think that it's important to just really acknowledge how lucky we are.
100%.
Absolutely.
I know that sometimes whenever I'm going through a challenge, whether it's, studying for a test I really don't want to take, or just, pushing myself in another way, even like a tough workout or something like that, remembering that like someone else out there would probably wish to have this challenge, because we're very fortunate with
Or this opportunity.
That's a good way to reframe that.
It's easy to take for granted what we have and then kind of view it in like a negative way when it's really someone else's like dream that they would want.
Yeah, it's a good situation at the end of the day. 100%. Well, where can our audience find you if they want to keep up and learn more?
I would say we're putting our most effort still into Instagram. That's our best spot right now. So it's Kirsten.Jordan. And then at some point we'll have a little bit, we're on a relaunch of the Kirsten Jordan team website. Instagram is probably the best spot right now. And then obviously we have a YouTube channel that we're continuing to build. We put some content on there that's longer form, and that will start getting out there. But from my Instagram, you can sign up for our newsletter, and that comes out I think right now it's coming out like once a quarter, and we're working up that cadence a little bit.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us and for all the incredible insights and real estate hacks. We haven't had that before, so that's really exciting. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode, and thank you so much to Kirsten for joining us today.
This was such an exciting episode, and I love that we got some real estate advice and hacks in there because we've never had that. Exactly. So, Anastasia, what was one of your biggest takeaways?
I think one of my biggest takeaways is that believing in yourself doesn't always come easily, but the best way to get ourselves to kind of pushed into feeling good and having that kind of self-belief is by following a goal that we really, really want and believe in, and by kind of following those steps will really kind of boost our self-esteem. How about you?
One of my biggest takeaways is visualization. Visualize what you want, what kind of environment you want to live in, the types of people you want to surround yourself with, the type of person and friend and individual that you would like to be, and then just recognize that you actually can achieve that and break it down into tangible tips how you want to get there, because you are the prize, like you said, and like Kirsten said today, but also like there's so many small steps we can take towards our goals and towards the person we want to become. If you enjoyed this conversation, we think you'd love our interview with $1 Million Listing LA star Tracy Tudor. Tracy takes us behind the scenes into her life, how she balances everything from personal life to professional life, and also her own self and personal care.
The sustainability piece, like you can't do it all. You have to know when to turn it off.
You can listen to our conversation with Tracy Tudor now. It's linked in the show notes.
If you enjoyed this week's episode of Hack Your Happiness, please leave us a 5-star review. It really helps others who are looking for a good podcast to listen to know that Hack Your Happiness is a great podcast to tune in.
Also, be sure to bring us a small bit of happiness and help us keep Hack Your Happiness growing and going every week by following this podcast on whichever podcast listening platform you're on now. It's completely free and it means the world to us.
See you next time.